magnifying glass, if the tick is real small and hasn't eaten enough blood yet to be able to see, you can get a good look at it. You're going to want to make sure that you get the tick at the level of the skin. So you may need to part the fur, thank you, part the fur so that you can get all the way down to the mouth parts, and use your tweezers to get all the way down, and then you can pull it out, and then I like to stab them with it to kill them, and then spray them with some alcohol. Get rid of that tick. You can dispose of it in your trash bag when you're all done. Splinters are much the same way. If you've got a splinter in a paw or on the belly, what you can do is, use your magnifying glass. You can see where it is better. Maybe have a helper hold it for you. And then just use your tweezers to get in here at the base of the skin and pull it out. And put that in your trash bag. So we've just discussed removing fleas and ticks and splinters. We also can do the same thing with a bee stinger or insect sting of whatever. You can use the tweezers to go ahead and take that out as well. Now once you're done, if you're worried about infection, as in a splinter, you can use that triple antibiotic ointment, open that up and rub it on where you took out the splinter. Or if you're talking about an insect bite or a sting or a tick bite, you're going to want some anti-inflammatory. So that's where you use the hydrocortisone cream and take that out and rub it on there in case of an insect or a tick bite. But for infection, for splinters, triple antibiotic ointment. All right, so with an insect sting, you want to numb the area, you can use a little bit of the lidocaine spray to spray on the area. Now remember, we've got hair, so you're going to want to part it and get down to the skin where it can actually do some good, because spraying the hair isn't going to do anything. But go ahead and spray the skin to help numb it up. You can use your tweezers to go ahead and get at the base of the tick or the base of the stinger. And then when it's all done, you can use your hydrocortisone cream to go ahead and rub on there to help with inflammation and pain. If your insect bite causes a lot of inflammation, you can certainly get out your cold pack. Go ahead and activate that. Put a towel around it so it's not too cold, and put that on the location of where the stinger bite occurred. And that will help to cool it off and numb it up a little bit and help with the pain. There's also a dosage chart on how much antihistamine, the diphenhydramine, to give in case of an allergic reaction. You can certainly give that as an oral medication to help as well. Okay. So people at home will clip their dog's nails because they get long, and it's important to keep them short so that it doesn't affect their gait and how they walk. So when you're clipping a toenail at home, some people unfortunately go a little too short and we quick the dog. It actually gets the little nerve in there and a blood vessel and starts a gusher, and it isn't a lot of blood, but it sure looks like a lot of blood when you do it. And they of course cry because it's painful. You hit the nerve there when you're cutting them. So I'm going to show you how to stop the bleeding of a toenail. Don't worry, we are not going to cut your nail short and make it bleed, okay? Don't worry about that. But we're going to pretend that it did get cut and it's bleeding. This is called wound seal. I have another one in here. It's a wound seal powder. I understand that it's used in the human industry and by paramedics quite a bit for stopping bleeding, and this also works in pets. So anyway, here's our little bottle of wound seal. Approved? Okay. All right, so we're just going to open it up. And this cap is pretty handy because you can fill it and set it down if you need to. It won't roll away, it won't fall over. So I'm going to put a little wound seal powder into this little cup here. This is the lid. And set this aside. All right, so I'm going to get the toenail that's bleeding. Let's say it's one up here on the front foot. And I'm just going to put the toenail that's bleeding into the powder. Okay, I know that was a little surprising. All right, and then I'm just going to take my finger and just push it on here, and it should stop the bleeding after a while. You'll need to put a little pressure on it with the powder on it so that you can push it right up in there, and that will help it to clot. Good boy, good boy. And that's all there is to it. Sometimes after they've had a problem, I'll walk them outside, and just walking them in the dirt kind of helps get it all packed up in there as well. But it's not a super scary emergency, even though it may look like it at the time with all the blood. Let's say your pet's been hit by a car and you've checked to make sure that it's safe to go retrieve your pet out of the road and get somebody to help you with your pet, and to make sure that you're not going to be hit by traffic. You want to move the pet the least amount as possible. One way that you can move your pet if you don't have anything handy like a board or something flat to put them on, you can use our emergency blanket as a transport device. If you do have a board to put them on, you can use this to cover them up because they'll be in shock. Anytime you have a big trauma like that, you'll have shock to worry about. So you can certainly open up your emergency blanket and use it as a cover. And if they're really cold, you can use your hot pack, activate your hot pack, wrap it in the washcloth, and put it under the blanket with the pet, and it'll help keep the heat trapped inside. If you do need to transport your pet, as long as it's laying down, you can transport it with the blanket. If the pet is standing, the nails will actually puncture this and rip it, so you really can't do that. But if you have a small pet, you can fold it up, and you want your pet to be on its side. It has to be on its side to be able to use this so the nails don't rip it. I don't know if he'll stay laying down. We can try. You can grab the edges of it and lift them up and carry them. If your pet is completely unconscious and laying on its side, this is a good way to do it. You can also take the tape that's in your kit and use it if you need to tape down the legs so that they're not moving so much, or tape over the head or the neck if they're completely unconscious. And that way you keep them more mobilized. Yeah, you need to get them to your vet right away. They'll probably have internal bleeding, so if you were to check their gums, they would probably be pale or blue. As we discussed about checking gum color. But yeah, if your pet is unconscious, it needs to be to the vet right away. Be sure and call on your way so that you make sure that they have a vet available when you get there. All right, so when we wrap this bandage, we want to start at the end by the foot. Okay, we're going to come up around here. Not too tight, but tight enough to hold it on. If it's bleeding, you're going to act as a compression wrap, so you're going to want to put it a little bit tight just to stop the bleeding. But we're just going to go around, and then I'm going to come back down towards the foot. You want to leave the toes exposed so you can watch the toes. If they start to swell, they'll spread a little bit as the foot gets big. You know that your bandage is too tight and you need to take it off. After the conforming gauze, we're going to put on some wrap. Now, what's important about this is you don't want to stretch it real tight because it'll cut off the circulation and then we'll have some big problems. So what I do is I unroll it from the roll and leave it loose. And then again, starting by the toes, I'm going to move this down a little bit lower than our conforming gauze. And then I'm just going to very gently wrap this from lower leg to upper. And again, I unwrap it ahead of time so that I'm not making it too tight. This stuff tightens as you use it, so you can always squeeze it together to get it to stick, but you don't want to stretch it and put it on. You want to leave it loose when you put it on. So we have our bandage, and I'm just going to kind of squeeze the edges together to make it stick to each other. Now we need to use our tape. So you're going to secure the bandage to the fur. So you're going to have the tape half on the wrap and half on the animal's foot. So we're just going to bring it around here. Then I'm going to put one on the top end, half on the fur, half on the wrap. And this will keep them from just kicking it off. And then what I usually do is I put another wrap around where the injury is. If the injury is at about this level, I'm just going to stick this one around here just to secure right over the injury. If it's bleeding, that'll help provide compression and stop bleeding. Brought them in. But if it's going to take you too long to do it, certainly it's most preferable to go ahead and bring them in as quick as you can. But if you can do something that doesn't take you but a few minutes to do, then certainly do that. Especially with bleeding, we can stop the bleeding before it even gets there.